Hey YouTubers, it's John, the audiophile pragmatist. I'm coming to you to show you really nice little piece, right? So, not very powerful. We got four. Looks like we got four 20 watt output devices. Maybe this is a 35-40 watt unit. It is a Harmon Kardon. Let me step out of the way here. Harmon Kardon 330B. So it looks to be early to mid 70s. It is in excellent shape. A little bit of dirt, but the owner kept her super clean. Inside, I cleaned it up, and it is awesome, shiny all around. Right? Even the backside has been kept inside its whole life. Still got the shorting plugs for the. You don't call them shorting plugs, you call them, I don't know, bridge plugs or whatever for the preamp in, preamp out, preamp in. Phono, of course, and aux, and tape. No such thing as CD back then. So, I want to kind of show you what it was doing. I'll just kind of set it up here mock-wise. And that'll be good. Turn it on. All right. Hear that? So one speaker is making like a wind noise, as if a microphone was in the wind. Other speakers dead quiet. Hear that? Yeah. Especially bad when it first turns on. Then it quiets down, but it's still apparent with time. So it is only in the phono mode. Every other mode is fine. It needs lights, but we'll get to that. That's not a problem. So when you put it in the phono mode, it makes that noise, right? And I tried shorting out the phono input and everything. That didn't help at all. So you would go to the phono input and short the input to the ground. No, it has nothing to do with leakage or something along the cables being bad or whatever. So take this off. So this is your phono preamp board. Again, it's a Harmon Kardon 330B receiver. See your preamp board? It's just got a few transistors there. They are hard to read from this camera here, but they are 458s. Let me verify. 458s. So when you tap on one of these 458s, and typically this is what I want. When you have that kind of noise, right? It's a bad ground or a bad connection, or of course you want to check your pots, right? Check and make sure that turning these pots doesn't actually induce that sound, because dirt in there could make that happen, right? So no, the pots are not the problem with this one. I kind of already knew it by the way the sound was anyway. If you know what I'm saying, that kind of wind in the, wind sound or blowing sound, like somebody's blowing on a microphone or whatever. That's typically not pots. Pots are scratchy sound. Anyway, there's one IC in this whole thing, and it does have to do with the phono preamp, because you can see you have 50 to 75 wait a minute, no, I'm wrong, disregard. So back to the phono preamp board. See, there's a bunch of caps there. These poly caps are not, these orange caps here are not suspect. Those things last forever. Neither are these blue ones. They're the same thing basically, but nor the green ones. I've never seen the green ones fail. So it's either, in my estimation, it's a transistor, and all four of these transistors are the same. They're the same. Sorry, it won't focus. 458C, 458s. All four of these transistors on here are the same. However, I will tell you that what I do is kind of a tap test, right? So I'll go in here with the power on, yes, power on, but everything, you know, everything's safe other than this. And then you take something that has, I built this tool here, right? These are so handy working on tape decks and everything, grabbing belts or whatever, or grabbing something out of this little, you know, corner that you can't get to. But on the other side, I made it into, you know, I coated it with rubber, basically. Dipped it in rubber, RTV. So I made myself a tapping tool, right? And you could use something else. You could use something like a pen, that, you know, like this, but this doesn't have any weight to it or anything, so you can improvise, right? Also, screwdrivers are typically, you know, the ends of them like this, that is not conductive, that plastic, so you could do it with that, but it's not precise. So I can go in here, just tap on different components and see what it does. When I tapped on this, it made a squeal, right? It squealed. Like, what the devil, right? But so I kind of got rid of this wire here, pull this wire out a little bit. And then, but when I tapped on this capacitor here, oh, it went crazy, right? So those are my two culprits, right? So yes, if you tap on components, semiconductors, or, you know, components that have some kind of reactive, like this chemical reactive in case of capacitor, then that couldn't do something, right? And that can give you an indication that there's something wrong in there. Now I also, power's off, I also took and looked at the back of the circuit board. It is typical of a Harmon Kardon, and that is, it is beautifully soldered with, you know, it's readily apparent that there's no cracked solder joints on here. Unlike some of the other Japanese things, right, that came later, that were kind of a nightmare to tell, especially if there's heat involved, and there'll be lots of cracked solder joints. And this is not the only circuit board that looks like that. All of these circuit boards look good like that on the bottom. I'm not going to flip it over right now, but they look the same as what you're seeing there. So it would be obvious if it were a cracked solder joint. And to be quite frank, there wouldn't be a cracked solder joint because they are well built. So there are pioneers that are out there that have heat problems, right? That would be suspect for power supply. Here's a power supply. Well, power supplies all over the place on this one. It's on the bottom and everywhere. But so here's the main power supply capacitor, right? Here's part of the power amp, which is also power supply. They do things, Harmon Kardon does things a little differently than some of the other ones. So they're hard to learn. And at first, when I started working on these, I said, I don't want to do these because they're so much different than the Sansui, Pioneer, you know, Technics, you know, on and on. Onkyo all seem to be kind of the same, but Harmon Kardon is quite different. It's not a bad thing. So once you learn it and you understand that, hey, these things are actually quite well made, and yeah, it's good. So what we're going to do is my first stop shop is that capacitor. It is a 16 volt, 50 microfarad capacitor, and I don't have 16 volts, so I'm going to replace it with a 25 volt. And that's fine. You can go up in voltage. So as you can see, You might be able to see, I don't know. So I got a 25 volt, 16 microfarad. And you can go up in voltage, don't go down in voltage. You can not go up and down in microfarads. So again, if you have, this calls for a 16 microfarad, I'm sorry, a 16 volt, 10 microfarad. I'm sorry, I said 16 microfarad. I'm wrong. 50 microfarad. So it's a 10 microfarad capacitor rated for 16 volts right there. What I'm going to replace it with right here is a 25 volt 10 microfarad capacitor. Microfarads are the same, capacitance is the same. This has a higher voltage rating. That's fine. You can do that. You can go up all day on the voltage. You can't go down in the voltage, or you can't change microfarads. So anyway, I'm going to do that. I'm going to come back in a few minutes when I get this done, and I'll show you what happened. By the way, the next troubleshooting here. So I suspect if it's not this capacitor, I suspect it's this transistor. And since these all four are the same transistors, I'm going to verify that these two are one channel and these two are the other channel. What I'm going to do is I'm going to swap one from the other channel to this channel, right? And then I'm going to see if the prob moved from one speaker to another. If the prob moved, you know I moved the bad capacitor, the bad transistor. All right, more later. Hey, John the Audiophile Pragmatist, and I'm back. So we have soldered in a new, and what I forgot to mention is that electrolytic capacitors, most are polarized, meaning one side's negative and one side's positive. So you need to pay attention when you're taking one out, which side is negative and positive. Sometimes it'll show you on the board itself which side is negative or positive. This is the one I replaced right here, and it does not show you that. So you need to be cognizant of which way is which on those. There are non-polarized capacitors, such as these orange caps here. We call them orange drops. They're good caps, but they're typically non-polarized, nor these green ones. And but most of the type that are can like that, like these here, larger ones, and of course these big ones, are all polarized. So it makes a difference what way you put them in. If you put them in the wrong way, you short out your amplifier. So now we're going to do a live action. I've replaced that capacitor. We're going to do a live action here. Sure we don't have nothing shorted. Good there. So I'm going to turn it on and we'll see what happens. We are in phono mode. I hear a typical hum. Ooh, hey, I heard it on the right side that time. I hear a slight motorboating on the right side, but I'm really high in the volume. So here's where you would be in normal volume. And my friends, it appears, let me just snap the function control around a little bit, and I'll show you how loud it is. Yeah, so we're way louder than what we should be, right, for listening to music. And also, let me just, I can hear a slight hum right now. Let me qualify that by saying the bottom cover is off, the top cover is off, and some of these older receivers require the covers to be on for shielding for part of the ground plane. So as you can see when I touch it, I don't know if you can hear that. When I touch it, the hum goes away because I've provided the kind of the grounding for it. So when you put the covers on, that's not going to happen anymore. It's going to be dead quiet. So phono, that's tape mode. Phono, there's a slight hum. That is typical with these units, and the hum is in both channels. So it is just because these, you know, rudimentary phono amplifiers are just not the greatest. So yeah, and yep, I'm picking up a motorboat over here. Went away. Dang. Okay, well, I think the customer will be just happy with this the way it is. I didn't hear that motorboat before. Maybe the other cap, maybe its sister cap needs to be. Oh, hear that? Yeah, that's a very sensitive area right there. So that needs to be secured down to this plate in the back and you know, treated properly. So I'm going to turn it off and put it all back together again, and I'm 99% sure that she's going to be good to go. All right, simple repair. Oh, still got to replace the bulbs under here, right? So I got some bulbs out, and no problem there. We'll get her done. Again, Harmon Kardon, very nice, very clean. John out.